Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. At the end of every episode, I always finish by saying how technology always works best when it brings people together. And this is also the ethos of the show, along with highlighting the startup or business stories from all over the world and using them to inspire others to go out there and solve real problems with technology too, rather than just complaining about them on Facebook. Now, in today's episode, I want to explore a few problems that I guarantee every business of every size will know all about. So in a world of audits, compliance and health and safety, how do you actually ensure that everyone is safety compliant? The days of giving someone a video and a form to sign on their induction day and then forget about it, they're long gone. And it's no longer just about permanent staff anymore either. And every office you walk into seems to have paper plastered all over the wall that nobody reads. So the big question is, how do you unite office staff, remote workers and contractors and unite them all together to ensure that the entire workforce supply chain is safety compliant? This is where I discovered a company called Work Wallet that is not only solving this problem with technology and bringing that dream of a paperless office to life, but also there's one hell of a startup story behind it too. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Derby here in the UK, which is also the town that I grew up in and where my football team is located too. So we can speak with Jonathan Gray all about how companies and individuals can use Work Wallet to share information and cut down on paper chasing and compliance headaches. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little more about who you are and what you do?
Hi, my name's Johnny Gray, and I'm the CEO of Work Wallet. We've been going about 18 months now. It was a slow start to start off with, but we are picking up pace now quite rapidly. And Work Wallet was really born out of an idea we came up with, primarily because we have another business called Green Dog, which is an app development business. And we used to have several businesses coming to us with the same problems. And they were communication problems with their staff. And as we worked through these different projects, we realized that all these businesses have the same problem, and that is delivering information to people that they can understand. And that's so ironic, really, because that's really much of my life has been like that. And I'll tell you the reason why. When I was at school, I didn't do very well. And the reason I didn't do very well is because I'm actually dyslexic, but nobody knew what dyslexia was in those days. Yeah. So I really struggled at school. What I did learn is that if I could take a subject and a technical subject and communicate it in a way that people could understand, it sort of bluffed my way through. And that's why I really did bluff my way through university, primarily because I took that information that was very, in some cases, quite technical, and used different scenarios to explain how it worked, but people could understand what I was talking about. So from that, I realized that in business it's the same. If you can't communicate with people very effectively, you're not going to do very well. So in the world of the app world, what we understood is if you take a very technical document and dissect it and bring out the forefront what is actually the most important part of it, and put that in a bullet-pointed version or a very, very easy way to understand on an app, it actually works far more better than if you're actually telling somebody face-to-face or saying, can you read this very large document, which is normally paper-based.
And I've been fortunate enough to interview startup founders from all over the world, and they all have their unique story. And equally, we have many people listening to us and learning from those stories. And you have quite an inspirational backstory that I'm sure many people listening are going to find incredibly valuable wherever they're listening in the world. So can you tell me how you first set up your business 13 years ago on your kitchen table with £1,000 of redundancy money, and how today Green Dog is the leading provider of digital solutions? Because that must have been quite a pivotal moment for you in your career.
Well, it was, because when I was made redundant, I was actually just moved house. I had 2 young children. It couldn't have been the worst time of possibly of being made redundant. Yeah. And I was actually given £1,000, and I said to my partner, well, I'm going to set this business up. I know I can make a go of it. And I did. And literally the week that I moved house, and I think it was about 6 weeks before, after my second child had been born, I set this business up. But I knew what I wanted to do. And I took my kitchen table, and there's actually a picture on Facebook of me sitting there with my child in my arm and the computer on the table. And I just really knew that I had to really work hard, and I worked very hard to get it off the ground. But Green Dog was really a metamorphosis, really, because we started off doing e-commerce consultancy. And it was really strange because we went from the kitchen table to a very small office in Derby, in about 2 years. We did really well. And then, unfortunately, there was a recession came along, and that didn't do us too well either. And then we took the punt of actually going to a really prominent office in Derby. And I've always said to my colleague, if we could get that office and stick a great big green dog on the side of the building, we would get people to come and see us. And funny enough, the opportunity came around. We stuck that green dog, and we had about £2,000 to £3,000 in the bank, and we gambled everything. And we stuck that green dog on the window, and it quadrupled the business within 6 weeks.
Wow, what a fantastic story. You don't do things by halves, do you? I mean, I'm just listening to you there. You've got redundancy, new child, moving home, recession, and starting your own business.
I know.
Each event on its own would be enough to finish a lot of people. It must have been such a stressful period.
Well, yeah. I mean, I used to have a full head of hair. I don't now. But it's really quite interesting because you deal with it in different ways.
Yeah.
And you just sort of get on with it. And these hurdles that come along in life or come along in business, you just find a way around them. You just got to really be dogmatic in the sense that this is not going to stop me. You know, there might be a small failure, but out of that failure, you can find something that you can use to your advantage to go forward even further. And that's how I look at things. And that's worked so far, certainly in my business world and certainly in my personal life.
It really has. And here, of course, we're here in 2019 with Work Wallet. So I've got to ask, for people that are hearing about Work Wallet for the very first time, can you just explain what problems you're solving with Work Wallet and also what makes it different from other solutions out there?
Well, the main problem that we're solving is coming back to my world when I was a young lad, about being able to communicate with people, workers on the field, or out in the field, or actually on sites, or actually in your office. And people have different ways of communicating. In the old days, we used to say, look, you need to read this and understand it and sign it. People don't read as much as they used to. They like to have something instantaneously. Email used to do that. When email came along, it was instant. You read it and then you replies. Now it's the app world. Stuff comes through on the app. You look at it, you read it, you digest it quite quickly, and then you respond to it. So all we've done is taken a lot of information and made that into a digestible system, an app system, to then send across real time to people across sites across the world. And what's unique about it, about Work Wallet, is that it's not just one thing. So it's not an audit system, it's not a RAM system, it's not a job pack system. It's got all of those elements together, and they're all tied in, just like that song. You know, the hip bone's connected to the hip bone's connected to the thigh bone. It's all connected. So all these elements, you can send all the information through to your workers. They can see that, confirm that they've read it. They're happy to work with that, and then that feeds back instantaneously to management. And it is that is speeding up the way that we work in the modern world. So why does that matter? Because we, as a business, we struggle to communicate sometimes with our staff directly, and we also struggle to get feedback from them. So this allows, and from our people, clients who are using our system, they are getting responses back from their workers that are very important, and in some cases critical. So if there's an accident, or if there's an incident, they can get the information real time and really act upon it in such a way that A, they can save people's lives, and B, they're not sort of playing catch up. It's an instantaneous response. So that's what's changing about this. I think the other thing about Work Wallet, what's unique about it, is that we are able to link up the whole of the workforce. And when I mean workforce, I don't mean the workforce that you physically have as a business. I'm talking about the supply chain that you have, that you use. So we all have suppliers, and we all have, and they have contractors as well. But we live in a world of compliance and auditing. And to some extent, that's why crypto has been so successful, because that blockchain technology is all about compliance and auditing and ensuring that all the information is correct. Work Wallet allows you to connect with other people's wallets. So if you want to, you connect to your contractor's wallet, and you can send them job packs or RAMS documents and ask them to confirm, and they can instantaneously fire information back. And they can do that to their contractors as well. So what you find is that your whole channel of work is now compliant. And if there are any blind spots, they can instantaneously be picked up real time through the management system. And it's quite revolutionary, because what it does, it raises the standards, because a lot of the time people are paper chasing them, got people busy, and things go amiss. Now that doesn't happen. You can just instantaneously just click a button, send the information. It's all compliant. It's also logged, etc. And from a peace of mind perspective, you know that people who are working on your sites or in your workforce are all either trained, got the right ID, they've understood the job, they've understood the risks, and they've signed for that, and instantaneously they can feed that information back to you at any time.
So what was it that made you realise that old methods of managing areas such as health and safety were not actually fit for a digital era? And what was the inspiration behind that?
Well, at the end of the day, it's all about paper chasing.
Yeah.
And when we were dealing with other businesses, we could see all this paper going back. People say, "Oh, we fill out all these forms X, Y, Z," and we're thinking, "Hang on, you don't need to do that. You just need to create a template and put the information and send it off." And then we realized that we needed an interface. So the app was the interface, or the iPad was the interface, depending on, if it's people like prefer tablets or actually phones. But the critical part of this is that we are, because when apps first came out about 4 years ago, they were mostly games orientated. They weren't really business orientated. And now in the last 18 months, it's changed rapidly. And we now realize the power of this technology for the business world. Now, we were fortunate that we recognized this back probably 2-3 years ago. And we've sort of been working to get to this point where we are now. And to be fair, it's been a long period of time to get to where we are today. Building apps is not for the faint-hearted, I can tell you. You have to really sort of understand what you're getting into and the parameters of that, and have a good team behind you to get to where you need to be. But coming back to your question about why we thought about this, or how we recognized it, if you just go into any office now, there's reams of paper. There's people on the notice board. There's people paper saying this, and this. Your RAMS documents, your health and safety, this, that, and the other. Most people don't read this stuff. Yeah. They just walk past. But do you know what we do? We all have on us our wallet, our keys, and our phone. And on that phone, you can have apps. That app can tell you information about the site that you're on, or where you are, and the risks associated with that. You're more likely to read that than you are walking down the corridor and reading stuff on the notice board.
So true. And there's going to be a lot of business leaders listening all over the world that are all beginning to accelerate their digital transformation efforts. And much like your app journey there, it's a long journey. It takes an incredible amount of time to get to where you need to be. But it seems that there is a much bigger opportunity, far more significant than exploring how to digitise your products and services. So can you tell me how you're using technology to also eradicate silos and bring staff, contractors, suppliers and customers and bring them all together?
Well, yeah, I mean, technically it's about connecting. Yeah. It's about the wallet. We call it a wallet, but it's actually an account. And that wallet allows us to open certain parts of that wallet and you are able to transfer information into another wallet. They then can take that, digest that information, and then give that information back. That is what's revolutionized our market in the sense of the health and safety side of things, because it is always very difficult to get people to say, yes, I've done that, or I've read that, or this is the paperwork. People send paperwork out. It sits on people's desks, sits in people's cars. The paperwork, once it's printed, it's out of date because the job, or not, if you go to site, the job always changes. So having this sort of technology instantaneously, so you can change it real time, cuts down on all your sort of messing about and going back and forwards to your manager or to your work to get the right information in the first place. It can be updated straight away. But the key thing is that the wallet side of things, because it interlinks, you can have a complete transparent, and that's the key, transparent workforce. And from a customer's perspective, they can look at their management system and see their 2 staff, their 20 staff, their 2,000 staff are all compliant. And if there are any blind spots, or if Johnny Gray hasn't read that RAMS document, but he's sitting on site, you can get him, the site manager can go and get him and say, look, you need to read this and nip it in the bud straight away. In the old days, you wouldn't know that, because you wouldn't know if he's read the stuff, because it's sitting in his van, or it's at work, or he hasn't handed it in, and it's those blind spots that you are closing to get to where you need to be as a business. So we're all safe, and that ultimately, that is what it's all about. We all want to go to work, we all want to be safe, and we all want to get the job done quickly, and that's what all this does.
And from the health and safety point of view, I'm curious, do you have any stats on just how important health and safety has become to businesses of any size?
Well, we now live in the world of compliance and auditing.
Yeah.
And it's very important from all businesses' perspective. If anything happens at work, anything bad, we have to prove now that we've got the right systems in place, or the right actions were taken. And that's very difficult if it's paper-based, because a lot of people have inductions at the start of their employment, but they don't tend to go on regular updates, and they also don't fill in paperwork because they obviously sometimes are too busy, or they don't have time to fill it in on site. And all this is trying to do is help alleviate that problem. In regards to health and safety now, it's absolutely, it's either one or two on the list of businesses now. It's the critical part of any business, because we are, if anything does go seriously wrong, then we are in the world of litigation, of course, and that's can be very expensive. And any work that you have been doing, any profit that you have made, can obviously go out the window if something goes wrong, and you'll seem to be negligent. So that's something very close to people. I think the other thing, of course, is now the rules are changing in regards to liability. So if anything does go wrong, directors can be liable for anything, and actually can, in some cases, be sentenced to go to jail. That tends to focus people's mind, certainly in the management perspective.
It really does. And for anyone listening to our conversation that completely gets the problem and would be open to embracing leveraging technology to seamlessly connect with the workforce, whether that be people, places, sites and locations, process, which of course is RAMS, audits, near miss and accident reporting and PPE, the list goes on. But can you tell me more about how Work While It Works, and also the tech behind it, and most importantly for people listening, how easy is it for a business to get up and running with it?
Well, with regards to easiness, it's about you can go online and you can create your own account. You can then there are several areas, as you say, there's people, places, and processes.
Yeah.
But in those areas there are like RAMs, sites, contacts, and you just fill those in. Now, some people might say, "Well, I've got a RAMs document here, and on paper, how do I get it into a digital format?" You just go onto the system, you pick a template, you pick the areas that are applicable to you, and it auto-generates the RAMS documents. So it's, it probably takes 2 or 3 minutes once you've got used to it. I mean, obviously you have to learn the technology, but yes, it is very intuitive. Setting up the audits, for example, is very easy as well. That's a case of just typing in what questions you want to ask or what you need to be actually looking for, or you want auditing, and it literally is 2 or 3 minute job. And then, of course, once you've got it in place, you can then distribute it across the whole of your workforce. The key thing in regards to any technology, and and the most successful technology providers, they all understand that you can have really, really intelligent system, but if you cannot get people to use it, then you will fail. And we've looked at that from a usability perspective. And, we understand that A, it has to be easy to use to actually set the system up. B, it has to be easy to use for management KPIs, getting the reports that you need out of it. C, the people on the ground who are actually using the information, as in, your workers with the app on their phone or on their iPad, they have to be able to use it easily. And D, and this is the most important part, that two-way process of sending information out and getting information back, that process has to be very easy as well. That is, in the case of what we're seeing with our customers, is why we are successful at the moment, is because of those 4 things, because we've understood those. So it's about technology and human interaction. And it's really quite interesting because most people say, there's a piece of technology, go and use it, it'll benefit you. A lot of technology, probably 95% of all technology out there, struggles to break through because people can't use it or understand it. On the flip side, there is a human culture that some people will early adopt it, will say, yes, great, I love this idea. And a lot of people will say, hang on, I used to do this way. I feel, I'm quite happy in where I am, and they have to be coached over. They have to be educated. They have to be said, look, it is easy to use, and break down those barriers, those human barriers to use technology. If you've got a piece of technology or system to do that, you can do that very easily.
And speaking of those barriers and those challenges, again, just to help people visualize the kind of difference that you're making, do you have any use cases or feedback stories that will help them almost visualize a before and after picture of the kind of results that WorkWallet has provided with your customers?
I mean, we have a client called Bowman Kirkland. They are the largest privately owned construction business in the UK. They also happen to be Derby-based as well, which is, obviously we're Derby-based, and that's great. So we've been working with themselves, and they've been using WorkWallet, and it's what benefit they've had is it's brought all their site documents all into one place, helping their site management teams to keep track and report and update in an easy and efficient way. Now, they've told us this is the most easiest and efficient way of reporting and recording that they've ever used. And they've used other apps in the past, and they've not particularly gone well for them. They either it's not collecting the right information, or people aren't using them. There's been some barrier there. But WorkWallet has been able to overcome those barriers and overcome those issues, and now they're sort of progressing further. But the key thing is it keeps it simple, and it keeps everything all in one place. Now, what they use the accident reporting system. They use the safety card system, red, yellow, and green cards. They use the site audit system and the QR system, that's QR code site management system, which helps them manage incidents on sites. And that escalates up the management chain if no one actually does anything about it, or someone it hasn't been taken, that hasn't actually been picked up. Before they were using us, they were doing everything manually, all the reports, all the KPIs. They don't need to do that now. They just go on the management system, they press what they want, what KPI they want, the system generates it, and they download it. It saves them a hell of a lot of time.
So what's next for WorkWallet? Is there anything else you can share with us about how the platform is going to continue to evolve, and also what your grand vision is for WorkWallet?
Well, our grand vision is to extend in regards to the working environment, so job scheduling, linking to other systems that are, we recognize that we are a particular platform in an area, but there are lots of other platforms that actually do other things like payroll and invoicing and stuff like that. And we're hoping to partner up with people from that perspective. We are very interested in the compliance side of things. So blockchain technology is something that we've been looking at to implement at some stage. To be fair, though, we're quite busy at the moment, so that probably won't happen in the next 6 to 12 months. But that is something that's on the roadmap. And from our perspective, we're just, because we are the builders, the developers of this system. When customers come to us and say, "That's great, Johnny, we love this system, but can it do this?" We have to look at it, and if people keep saying this to us, as in our customers, we realize there's a market there. Market in the sense that there's a desire for that technology or that process either to be developed or actually there is a solution for that problem that this business has got. So we're in a very unique position that we can actually say, right, yes, we can just build that block, put it into the system, and people can then, purchase it and use it on a monthly basis or not. But if people are continuously asking us to do stuff, then there's obviously a problem and a solution needs to be provided for. So our platform is so well made in the sense of it's basically a skeleton, and we can bolt stuff onto it to help other sectors, so rail, for example, or retail or distribution. If there's a particular sort of sector that needs a particular piece of technology to help them get from A to B to C, we can do that. It's ever changing. That's the beauty of this system. It's ever changing. So if we have an interview in 2 or 3 years' time, we could be looking at a completely different system, and that's what's so exciting about it.
And for anyone who's listening and we've captured their curiosity, or they're inspired by your story, or just want to find out more information, can you remind them of where they can find WorkWallet online, and also contact a member of your team if they are left with any other questions?
Sure. I mean, we're online at www.work-wallet.com. Also, we're on LinkedIn. If you want to connect us through LinkedIn, we're very amenable. Just send us a message. I'm on there, Adam's on there, Wynn's on there. There's a group of us, about 15 of us here at the moment. So we're all on there. So if you want to chat to us, you can go direct to us through there. No problem at all, or phone us up.
Well, I'll add all those links to the blog post that will accompany this podcast. And you've been on such an inspiring story and solving real problems. But I always say at the end of every episode that technology works best when it brings people together. And having listened to you there, it seems that with WorkWallet, you're embracing and leveraging technology to seamlessly connect with the workforce right across people, places and process and accident reporting and beyond, which is a fantastic thing. But more than anything, just a big thank you for coming on and sharing that story with me today.
Well, that's my pleasure. Thanks very much for having me.
Listening to Jonathan's story there really inspired me, and I can't imagine what it must have been like to have been made redundant, moving home, having a baby and starting your own business, all within a few weeks of each other. But wow, what a great story. And I especially love the ending of this story and how WorkWallet is now connecting office staff, remote workers and contractors together, ensuring that the entire workforce supply chain is safety compliant, all by using technology. Now you can find more details from today's episode over on my website, techblogwriter.co.uk, and you can also email me directly, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes if you have any questions, want to work with me, or even just say hello. But I'm afraid we're out of time now, so all that's left for me to say is a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.